Get out because our daughter is coming home for her childbirth.
It was the day when Mike flared up at me, his nostrils widening, because I came home late from work, which delayed dinner preparation. I had been thinking he was being too selfish lately, but telling me to get out was something else. Besides, I hadn't heard anything about our daughter coming home.
Why do I have to leave? Just because I got home a bit late?
I couldn't understand why Mike was so angry with me. After retiring, Mike has been staying at home all day while I work outside. It's no exaggeration to say that I am the one who earns the living for this house. Yet, I've started to feel sick of Mike's grumpy attitude.
You make me so irritated. Don't ever come back. I'll live happily with our daughter and grandchild.
Mike's words finally made my anger explode. Fine then. If that's what you say, I'll leave. My name is Sally, I'm 60 years old. I live with my husband Mike. I've been managing a cafe that we opened 10 years ago while also taking care of housework. Mike retired this year at 65. So, during the day, he seems to relax by watching TV or gathering information about horse races. Initially, I wanted Mike to rest after years of hard work, but recently, I've been questioning him not doing anything around the house. But that's not the only bad thing about Mike. He gets angry if I even spend a little time relaxing at home, despite not doing any housework himself. I've worked hard as a company employee for a long time. You're lucky, just running a cafe as a hobby. You don't know the struggles of a company employee. At least work for others in the house. That's Mike's favorite thing to say. He must have been given unreasonable tasks by his superiors when he was working. I understand his frustration. But it's presumptuous of him to tell me to work for others. Also, I'm not running the cafe just as a hobby. I manage it with a strong belief in making customers happy with my cooking. Hiring employees is not something I take lightly. I carry their lives on my shoulders. I didn't want it to be dismissed as a hobby. Mike's high-handed attitude towards me and thinking only about himself has been irritating me daily. These frustrations have been part of my daily life, but lately, Mike's attitude has been getting worse. As the owner of the cafe, my life involves going to work every day if there's a staffing shortage. Since all employees are part-timers and we operate on a voluntary shift system, there are often days when shifts aren't filled. Even so, Mike wouldn't do anything about the house. One Sunday, one of the employees told me,
Sally, please take a break sometimes.
Accepting their kindness, I decided to take a break. While reading in the living room, Mike, who had been reading a horse racing magazine, snapped at me with a scary face.
It's already 0 p.m. Stop reading such books and quickly make lunch.
I was so engrossed in my reading that I hadn't realized it was already lunchtime. But that's no reason to get angry. After all, there were things Mike could have done instead, like giving me a heads up a bit earlier or preparing something himself. I had many things I wanted to say, but I knew arguing would only lead to more retorts. I sighed and responded, Sorry, I completely forgot. What would you like?
Just make anything quickly. I'm hungry.
I ended up making pizza at Mike's insistence. Unfortunately, we were out of bacon, so I used chicken instead. Sorry for the delay.
Pizza only? Isn't there any soup or salad? And chicken pizza is the worst. Make it again.
Mike grimaced at the pizza I had made with effort. I never expected such heartless words, and it made me want to frown. What? But we don't have any bacon, and making something else would take more time.
Then go buy some.
Mike waved me off as if shooing a fly. This was too much. But arguing here would only make him angrier, I could see that. In the end, I rushed out to buy bacon. I regretted not choosing another dish, but I sighed, thinking that I would have been complained at either way. When I offered Mike the remade pizza with bacon, he started eating it without a word of thanks, still looking at his horse racing magazine. I wonder when our marriage became so cold. While I was busy with work, Mike had become such an uncaring person. I dreaded thinking about our future life together as a couple. Mike's laziness wasn't just about not doing housework and ordering me around. He was a playboy. I knew Mike often went to nightclubs. Once, I had confronted him.
Why do you go to places like that?
But even then,
Are you criticizing my hobby? You run a cafe as a hobby, don't you? It's the same thing.
Mike retorted with a nonsensical logic. Needless to say, I was unconvinced by such an excuse, but no matter how much I scolded him, Mike wouldn't stop going to nightclubs. Since he retired, he had more free time and thus went out to play even more. When I confided in a friend, she naturally suggested,
Why don't you divorce him?
"That's easier said than done." Of course. Though I understood, I couldn't easily make the decision to divorce. I married Mike when I was 35, and frankly, I thought it was a miracle that I got married at all. I lacked confidence in my looks and didn't come from a particularly good family background. Coming from a poor family, I thought I'd end up living a lonely, single life, so I was very happy to have married Mike. Moreover, Mike wasn't always this domineering. It was my fault for pampering him too much. Mike had grown arrogant with age and became selfish. Considering this, I had convinced myself that having an unreasonable husband was better than being alone. I also naively hoped that Mike might mellow with age. Like the old Mike, I hoped he would settle down as he got older. I'm going to the races today. One Saturday, Mike left for the races, humming a tune. He was always in a good mood when going to the races. I had work that day, but if it made Mike a little happier, I wanted him to go, as long as he stayed within his allowance for betting.
Have a good time. I'll probably be late today.
Yeah. Mike, preoccupied with thoughts of racing, hardly listened and left the house. I went to work as usual. Looking at the cloudless sky, I felt geared up for another busy day.
I'm home.
It was 10 p.m. when I finished work. It was Saturday, and I was late because of preparation work for the next day. Usually, Mike would buy his own dinner on such days, but this day was different.
What time do you think it is?
I told you I'd be late. Sorry.
I didn't hear that. What about my dinner?
Didn't you buy something?
Shut up. Why would I?
Seeing Mike's angry face, I realized everything. He had lost at the races and spent all his money. So, he didn't even have money for dinner. It had to be something like that. Tired from work, I started cooking right there. I could only make something simple, but Mike, probably starving, ate it voraciously, still with an angry face. A turning point finally arrived in our cold marriage.
Get out because our daughter is coming home for her childbirth.
It was the day when Mike flared up at me, his nostrils widening, because I came home late from work, which delayed dinner preparation. I thought he had been too selfish lately, but telling me to get out was outrageous. Besides, I hadn't heard anything about our daughter coming home. Mike and I have a daughter named Mary. Mary is 30 this year and moved out after getting married 2 years ago. Truth be told, though she's called our daughter, she's not related to me by blood. She's Mike's daughter from a previous relationship. But I raised Mary as if she were my own daughter. We became a family when Mary was 5 years old, and it was quite a struggle to build a relationship of trust. I patiently talked to Mary, gave her what she wanted, and even had fights, through which she started to treat me like her real mother. I was lonely after she got married, but as long as Mary was happy, I was content. It was about 7 months ago that I received a call from Mary, telling me she was pregnant. Of course, I was happy, and so was Mike. He was thrilled. Seeing him so excited about meeting his grandchild made me feel warmly towards him, realizing he had such adorable sides. Mary is coming home for her childbirth? Why does Mike know such a thing while I don't? I wasn't even aware that Mary was planning to come home for the childbirth. I had assumed she would give birth at a hospital near our house.
I didn't know she was planning to come home for her childbirth. That's because you're not trusted, so you weren't told.
Mike mocked me, as if belittling me. Indeed, since I'm not blood related to Mary, I can't know for sure if I'm truly trusted unless I ask her. But is it possible that she wouldn't tell me about her plans for coming home for childbirth? Or is Mike lying? I wanted to confront Mike, but more than that, I was irritated by being told to leave.
Why do I have to leave? Just because I got home a bit late?
I couldn't understand why Mike was so angry with me. Mike has been at home since his retirement, while I work outside all day. It's no exaggeration to say that our household living expenses are covered thanks to my job. Sure, dinner might be late sometimes, but that's always because I get home late from work. Even so, I always make sure to prepare dinner, no matter how late it is. Yet, I've started to feel sick of Mike's annoying attitude.
You irritate me just by being here. Don't ever come back. I have other women, and I'll live happily with my daughter and my grandchild.
Mike's words finally made my anger explode. He doesn't realize what will happen if I leave, even though I'm the one paying the $1,500 monthly mortgage. All right then. If that's how it is, I'll leave. Angered by Mike's disdainful words, I went back to my room and pulled out a large carry-on bag. I started packing the essentials, clothes, cosmetics, etc. I couldn't fit everything, so I had to compromise. Of course, I made sure to pack important items like money and debit cards properly. After managing to pack everything, I made my way to the entrance.
What's going on? Why do you have such a big bag? You told me to leave, so I'm leaving.
Oh, that's good.
The thought of not having to see your face anymore is relieving.
I felt disgusted with Mike, who seemed happy only at times like this, despite being incapable of doing any household chores by himself.
Please take good care of Mary.
Of course.
My adorable grandchild is coming.
I'll feed them delicious food every day. I wondered where Mike got the culinary skills to provide such delicious meals. Maybe he plans to dine out every night? Doing so would surely deplete any amount of money. Even with a pension, daily dining out would quickly drain it, which was easy to predict. Yet, Mike seemed completely unconcerned about money, smirking unpleasantly. Eager to get away from this man, I said.
Well then.
And left the house. He can try his best to take care of his daughter. He'll surely give up soon anyway. After leaving home, I first looked for a hotel to stay in for the night. I found a budget business hotel and decided to stay there for the time being. But obviously, I couldn't stay in a hotel for many days. That would surely lead to bankruptcy on my part. I called a single friend of mine to negotiate if I could stay with her for a while. Knowing it was a bold request, I offered to take care of the house and cook meals in return, and she kindly accepted. I was touched by the support of friends, grateful to be allowed to stay from the next day. After checking into the hotel, I planned my next move. I could predict that Mike, unable to do household chores, would be at a loss just by my leaving, but that alone wouldn't quell my anger. I wanted to make him regret having led such a lazy life, dumping all the household chores on me, and showering me with verbal abuse. The next day, after finishing some errands, I headed to my friend's house. It had been a while since we'd seen each other, and she was happy to see me. I once again asked if I could stay for a while and entered her home. "It's unlike you, Sally, to be kicked out of your house."
Well, it's more like I left on my own. I've had enough of living with Mike.
"So, are you planning to get a divorce?"
I'm considering it.
As I sipped the coffee my friend had made, I reflected on my married life. Though it happened that I was kicked out, it was inevitable that my life with Mike would have ended sooner or later. Things were fine while Mike was working. I never imagined he would fall so far after retirement. Everyone deserves a rest after years of hard work. But that doesn't give him the right to take it out on his wife. Mike's attitude had cooled my heart towards him. Later, I put my luggage in the room my friend showed me and made the bed. She said I could relax today, so I laid down on the bed. So much had happened in the past 2 days. I knew I couldn't stay at my friend's forever, so I'd need to find a new place, but I decided to rest early that day. When I woke up, the unfamiliar room made my mind foggy, trying to catch up with reality. Right, I was at my friend's place. I remembered I needed to start looking for a house today. Luckily, my shop was closed today, so I could dedicate the whole day to house hunting. My friend had gone to work, so I visited a nearby real estate agency alone. After I shared my budget, the agent showed me several options. Thinking I didn't need a large place just for myself, I chose a smaller rental apartment. I quickly finished viewing and signed the lease to move in next month. Everything was going smoothly. I was worried about what would happen after being kicked out by Mike, but there was no need. That night, after my friend came back from work, I told her I had signed a lease, and we drank together. It had been a while since I had such a fun time drinking with a friend. I was full of hope for my new life. I might have been lulled into thinking everything would pass without incident, but after staying at my friend's for a month, I got a call at work. As expected, it was Mike. I was busy at the time, so I didn't answer, but I called him back 2 hours later, after work, from the empty shop. "Hello? What's up?" I pretended to be indifferent, and immediately, I heard shouting from the other end. I instinctively pulled the mobile phone away from my ear.
Why didn't you answer your phone?
I couldn't help it. I was at work. Besides, I'm calling you back now, so it's fine. Mike clicked his tongue. I held my breath, waiting for his next words, which soon came out meekly.
What's this about the loan? Weren't you paying it?
Loan? What are you talking about? I feigned ignorance.
The mortgage. I got a call saying it hasn't been paid. What's going on?
Mike's voice trembled as he explained the situation. I couldn't help but feel a surge of laughter inside. Actually, the day after I left, I had transferred the house deed from my name to Mike's. It was initially bought under my name since I had the income, but since I left, it wasn't mine anymore. Now that Mike would be living there alone, it was only natural for the deed and the mortgage responsibilities to be his. Mike seemed aware I had been paying the mortgage with my hard-earned money, but he hadn't realized its importance. So, he was panicking over the sudden responsibility for the mortgage payments. "The house and the mortgage aren't mine anymore. They're yours, Mike. So, it's only natural for you to pay."
Why? It was bought under your name. You should pay it.
Too bad. I've already changed the deed.
What?
Mike's voice was filled with surprise. I sensed it was time to vent my accumulated grievances. What? Mike, you mean to tell me you can't even pay the loan? After all that talk about kicking me out of the house. And all those boasts about feeding Mary delicious food. I see. Perhaps you've run out of money from gambling on horse races. How pitiful.
What are you talking about? I haven't wasted any money. The pension is just too low. And Mary, she's already left.
Mike's hurried denial over the phone was painfully obvious. The claim that he hadn't wasted any money was a lie. After all, I knew he had dipped into our shared savings to buy more lottery tickets when his allowance wasn't enough. So, I was aware that Mike lacked the capacity to pay the loan. He complains about the pension being low, but he was supposed to receive a decent amount.
The fact that $1,500 for the loan isn't available means he should have enough to live on normally.
I thought to myself, detached. I know you've spent all our savings on your hobbies, Mike. Must be nice, immersing yourself in your hobbies every day. You didn't have to do anything. 3 meals a day appeared, and I did all the laundry, trash, and cleaning. It was easy for you, wasn't it?
That's right. I need you. I can't live without you. Please come back.
This time, Mike pleaded with me to come back, changing his tone to one of desperation. I was beyond being appalled by Mike's willingness to change his attitude for self-preservation. It was embarrassing. I can't live with you, Mike. After all the exploitation and being told never to come back, do you think I would return? Mike, how old are you? You're an adult, aren't you? Take care of yourself. I never thought you were so foolish to kick me out without even the readiness to manage on your own. Don't call me ever again. We're getting a divorce. You will pay off the entire loan. Enjoy your remaining years with Mary and your grandchild. Goodbye. I hung up the phone, cutting off Mike's attempt to say something. Calls from Mike came through immediately after, but I rejected them on the spot. Looking at the now quiet mobile phone, I was suddenly overcome with exhaustion. When was the last time I got angry at someone? It's not in my nature at all. I had never really gotten angry with Mike because, fundamentally, I disliked being angry with anyone. I never wanted to go through something like this again. Though it meant losing both a husband and a daughter, continuing as Mike's wife was unbearable. A few days later, Mike somehow found out where I was staying and sent a letter. It expressed remorse and pleaded for me not to go through with the divorce, asking me to come back. I didn't respond to the letter but sent back only the divorce papers. Mike hesitated to proceed with the divorce, but perhaps resigning to the fact that I wouldn't respond to his letters, he submitted the divorce papers a month later. Finally, we were able to start walking separate paths in life. Sometime later, I received another call. I had blocked Mike's number, so I was curious to see who it was. It turned out to be Mary.
Hello? Mary?
Mom? It's been a while. Mary sounded excited over the phone.
What's up?
A baby girl was born this morning.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Hearing the news that the baby was safely born made me incredibly happy.
Did you come to the house last month? I'm sorry I wasn't there.
No, it's okay. I wanted to surprise you by coming home for just one day. But only Dad was there, and he misunderstood about the childbirth. When I asked where you were, he said you had left. I realized Dad had kicked you out, so I left immediately. Mary shared what had happened after I left the house. So that was it. She had planned to surprise me by coming home for just one day, which is why she hadn't contacted me. But Mike had twisted the story, leading to misunderstandings. I told Mary about my divorce from Mike. She accepted it surprisingly easily. I thought it might come to this sooner or later. Dad was exploiting you too much. Mom, you did well. Mary had always been on my side. Knowing this brought me peace and affirmed my love for her. Later, I visited Mary to see my granddaughter. She was adorable, and holding her tiny hands was incredibly moving. Holding such a fragile being made me realize the joy of grandparenthood. Having never raised a baby myself, I visit Mary regularly now, and her husband has warmly welcomed me. I never imagined such happy days would come. Mike hasn't shown up at Mary's house, perhaps still shocked by our divorce. But I couldn't care less. He might be living alone now, struggling with daily chores, drowning in despair. Covering the loan and living expenses with just his pension must be tough, so he might have to work. The image of Mike's downfall crossed my mind, but it no longer concerned me.
I'm so glad you're my child.
Me too. The one thing I'm grateful to Dad for is marrying you, Mom. Mary and I exchanged smiles, and at that moment, it felt like even my granddaughter smiled for an instant.
I have $1.50. Can you take me to where Mommy is in the sky?
Standing in front of the bus driver, little Eliza pulled out her wallet from her backpack and offered the money to the bus driver.
That's...
Confronted with Eliza's earnest gaze, the bus driver looked at us, bewildered.
Eliza, come here.
I hugged Eliza and explained that it takes more than a bus ride to go where Mommy is now. That Mommy is in the sky because of something I said too casually. Believing my words, Eliza had been desperately figuring out a way to see Mommy. I thought I was being supportive, but I hadn't understood Eliza's feelings that. Learning of Eliza's thoughts made my heart feel like it was about to burst. All I could do was hug Eliza and wait for her to calm down. Then, a voice from behind.
Ready to go?
Huh? Both Eliza and I looked up in surprise. There stood my husband, Charles, with a stern face.
Let's go. Charles, wait, where are we going?
Without answering my question, Charles, still looking grim, dragged Eliza to a bus parked nearby and boarded. My name is Stephanie. I met Charles, who is 2 years my senior, through a friend when I was 20. Back then, I worked at a deli. One day, right at 11 a.m. when the store opened, 2 men entered. Stephanie?
Whoa, you scared me. You work around here?
My office is about a 10-minute walk from here. We have a meeting in the afternoon, so we thought we'd grab an early lunch. Ah, this is my colleague, Charles. He recommended this deli. Next to my friend Raymond, a man named Charles greeted me. Ah. I know this guy. He comes in about once a week and always buys a sandwich.
You come here a lot, don't you? Thanks for always coming.
After I thanked him politely, Charles blushed. Seeing Charles's reaction, my friend smirked. Charlie is a really capable guy, someone I look up to. He's quiet but has always been patient and supportive. Stephanie has a gentle, almost animal-like character, like a younger sister. I have a feeling you two will get along. What are you talking about? Come on, let's buy and head back. With that, Charles picked up 2 sandwiches and handed them to me. That'll be $8 for both. As I was handing back the change, my fingers brushed against Charles's palm.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry for what Raymond said. Let's go. Watching Charles walk away, with Raymond waving goodbye beside him, I noticed Charles's earlobes had turned red. Despite being older, it was somehow endearing. I couldn't help but smile. From that day on, we became aware of each other. Thank you for always providing delicious lunches.
No, thank you for coming to buy them. You like salmon, right?
Charles nodded shyly. Would you like to go see it together? One day, Charles offered me movie tickets.
This is exactly what I wanted to see. Wow, I'm so happy.
Seeing me happy made Charles smile shyly. After that, we went out together several times and eventually started dating. Let's make a picnic basket tomorrow and go for a picnic. What do you want to eat? Salmon?
I like salmon, but maybe French fries.
Choosing his words carefully, Charles shyly confessed that French fries were actually his favorite.
French fries aren't in a sandwich.
I burst out laughing at his unexpected confession. No, I didn't want to hold up the line for other customers. Charles, as usual, spoke shyly. Clumsy with few words and shy, Charles possessed a kindness that was considerate of others. Though often perceived as quiet and stiff, his kindness always came through to me. And I wanted to be with him forever. Fortunately, Charles seemed to feel the same way, and when I was 22, I married Charles. The following year, our son Sean was born. It was evident how much Charles adored Sean. Whenever Sean cried, Charles would immediately come running to quietly and restlessly hold him.
Thank you, Charles. If you talk to him, he'll soon recognize your voice too. Talk to him, like, what should I say?
Coughing and handing Sean to me, Charles scratched his head and went into his room. He must be embarrassed. I found his awkward expressions of love endearing. Eventually, Sean became a schoolboy.
Dad, listen. Today at school.
Is that so? Can I learn baseball with my friends? Do what you like. Even though Sean spoke excitedly, Charles would listen but usually end conversations with nods or a word. To me, who understood Charles, it was nothing unusual, but as Sean grew, he began to speak less to his father. Sean, did you message Charles that you got into your first choice college? No, tell him for me, Mom. Dad's not interested in me.
That's not true. Because the lucky charm. Lucky charm? Well, Charles is quiet with everyone, but he really does care about Sean.
Really? Charles had prepared a lucky charm for Sean's college entrance exams. Don't tell him it's from me. Embarrassed, Charles said this as he indifferently handed me the lucky charm. I ended up giving it to Sean, but it was clear that Charles, more than anyone, cared for and supported Sean. I hoped that someday Sean would recognize Charles's difficult-to-understand way of expressing love. Watching Sean's grown-up back, I couldn't help but wish for that. After leaving home to go to college, Sean got married at 23 to Helen, whom he had been dating since his university days. The night before the wedding, looking for Charles who hadn't come to bed yet, I found him alone in the living room, drinking and looking through an album. He's grown up. I could barely hear Charles's hoarse voice. Trying not to be noticed by Charles, who was flipping through the album while sniffling, I quietly returned to the bedroom. The following year, Sean and Helen had a beautiful little girl named Eliza. Sean's family lived in an apartment an hour's drive from us, and they always invited us for celebrations, allowing us to witness Eliza's growth up close. Eliza, it's Grandma. Holding Eliza, she would brightly smile back. Eliza, resembling Helen, had clear and distinct features. She wasn't shy and was so adorable that I was completely smitten with her. And beside me, Charles silently offered his index finger to Eliza. When Eliza grabbed Charles's finger, he finally allowed himself a slight smile.
Grandpa loves you very much, Eliza.
As I spoke for him, Charles's face turned bright red. Eliza stared intently at Charles. The growth of a grandchild seemed even faster than that of one's own child. Before we knew it, Eliza was walking and talking. When alone with Eliza, Charles would softly talk to her with a gentle smile, but he seemed embarrassed to be seen doing so by others. Grandpa, Grandpa.
Eliza, Grandpa is busy. Let's play over here with me.
Even when Eliza called him in front of Sean and Helen, Charles, embarrassed, would escape to his room. I watched this with a mix of amusement and exasperation. However, Sean sighed beside me. Does Charles have a hard time with little kids?
I think he just doesn't like the noise. I barely have any memories of playing with him either.
Maybe we shouldn't bring her over.
That's not true at all.
Hearing Sean and Helen's conversation, I vehemently denied it.
Charles cares deeply about both Sean and Eliza.
Really? With a look of skepticism, Sean stared at the closed door of Charles's room. I wished the family could understand the kind, family-oriented man that Charles was, but how could I make them see? I was at a loss. Afterward, Sean seemed to continue harboring feelings about Charles's behavior, but Helen saw things differently. This is a matching towel for you and Eliza, if you'd like to use it. Helen handed Charles a bath towel. A cute towel with a bunny pattern. Far removed from Charles's stiff personality, I couldn't help but laugh. Ah, thank you. That's all Charles said before he quickly retreated to his room. I wondered if Helen noticed the slight softening in Charles's expression. Helen continued to make an effort, speaking to Charles whenever she could.
Helen, thank you for everything with Charles.
I expressed my gratitude to her when Charles wasn't around. Eliza loves Charles so much. Children have sharp instincts, don't they? I wanted to get to know Charles better myself, so I've been trying to engage more actively, she said cheerily. I was glad Helen was such a wonderful person. Sports days, school performances, summer vacations, Christmas. At least these 4 times, we could meet Sean's family, and each time, we were overjoyed to see Eliza growing up healthy and happy. However, our happiness was abruptly shattered. Helen was killed in a car accident on her way home. Hello, Mom, Helen. Helen. It was a pleasantly cool autumn evening, just a month before Eliza's 6th birthday, when Sean called us. We rushed to the hospital. There, we found Helen, already cold. Beside her was Sean, sobbing uncontrollably in public. It seemed Eliza was still at the childcare center.
Mom, stay with Sean. I'll go pick up Eliza from the childcare center.
With that, Charles, while worried about Sean, left the hospital room. It was after midnight by the time Sean and I got home, having dealt with the hospital, police, and various procedures. Welcome back.
Where's Eliza?
She's sleeping in my bed. I made sure she had dinner and took a shower.
Thank you.
The sink was left with unwashed chopping boards and pans. Sorry. I fell asleep after putting her to bed. I'll clean it up now.
No, I'll do it. Thank you, Charles.
Helen was particularly careful with Eliza's meals due to her allergies. So Charles, who rarely cooked, must have prepared dinner for Eliza. Charles had never taken care of his granddaughter by himself before, but I thought he did a great job. Back home, Charles silently stayed by Sean's side as he broke down crying again. Eliza faced Helen's body for the first time at the funeral. She looked as if she was sleeping, beautifully dressed.
Daddy, why is Mommy sleeping here?
Unable to bear Eliza's words, Sean ran out. Eliza watched her father leave with a puzzled look. Mommy's not going to wake up anymore. She's gone to heaven.
Did Mommy go alone? Take me with you.
Eliza held on to her mom's hand. Mommy, let's go home. You'll catch a cold sleeping here. At just 5 years old, Eliza couldn't understand that her mother would never wake up again. Neither Charles nor I knew how to explain it to her, so we just stood there, helpless. Somehow, we made it through the funeral and returned home. I was worried about Sean, who seemed numb and drained of tears.
Hey, Sean, Why don't we live together? With 3 adults, we can properly take care of Eliza.
Seeing Sean so shut down and shocked, we offered to live with him. Sean nodded silently, and that settled it. We would live together.
Wow, I get to live with Grandpa and Grandma? Yay! I hope Mommy comes back soon.
Eliza, not understanding anything, was happy with the idea. Leaving already? What about breakfast?
I'll eat at the office. I'll be busy for a while, so don't bother preparing dinner.
Sean left at 6 a.m. and returned at 11 p.m. By the time he got home, the 3 of us were already asleep. He wouldn't talk to anyone, just took a shower and went to bed. And left before Eliza woke up. Sean seemed to be immersing himself in work on purpose, trying not to think about Helen.
Give this to Sean.
Worried about Sean, Charles bought a box full of the chocolate Sean used to love.
From Charles.
I didn't know if Sean was eating properly at work, but every morning I gave him the chocolate along with a sandwich for breakfast. Every morning, Eliza would wake up and ask if Mommy had come back.
Mommy's in the sky now. We can't see her, but she's watching over you, Eliza.
Each time, I took Eliza in front of the portrait and explained.
Let's say good morning to Mommy. Good morning.
Eliza looked unconvinced, and I forced a smile.
Come back soon.
I heard Eliza's whisper, but I tried to override her words with my own.
Today, we'll go pick flowers with Grandma.
Since Helen's death, Eliza hadn't gone to childcare. She didn't want to go without Helen, who always took her there. With her mother gone and seeing her father rarely, Eliza must be feeling insecure. Thinking this, I decided to stay by Eliza's side as much as possible to distract her.
If you keep looking down, Helen will scold you. She said there was nothing happier than seeing you and Eliza smile.
I tried to cheer up Sean, who remained withdrawn, but mentioning Helen's name brought silent tears to his eyes.
I'm sorry.
But you're Eliza's father. I know. After saying that, Sean quickly left the house. Meanwhile, Eliza, still not doubting that Helen would return, kept asking about her mom every day. Each time, I told her Helen was up in the sky and took her in front of the portrait. Mommy can hear you from here, why don't you talk to her? But Eliza remained silent, just staring at her mom's portrait. How can these two get through this? I sighed deeply. One day, while watching a children's show with Eliza, she said, Grandma, give me some money.
Eh? Money? What for?
I want to take the bus. The show we were watching was about a little girl traveling to various places by bus. Flying through the sky, crossing rainbow bridges, running underwater. Anything was possible, and she could go anywhere. It was a story full of dreams. Then, if you help out, I'll give you some pocket money. Let's save up and take the bus, okay?
Okay.
I saw Eliza's beaming smile for the first time in a long while. Where does Eliza want to go? It might be nice to take a trip together. Maybe it would help Sean feel a bit better. Thinking this, I smiled fondly at Eliza, who was eager to help out.
Grandpa, Grandma, we're going to take the bus.
A few days later, Eliza appeared in front of us, backpack on and hat in place, all ready to go. Are we going today?
Yes. We have to hurry, or we'll be late.
Charles and I exchanged looks. Pulled along by Eliza's determination, we found ourselves heading to the bus stop.
We're just going to look at the buses today.
I hadn't planned anything yet and told Eliza so, but she wasn't listening. Maybe seeing the buses would calm her down. With that thought, we took Eliza to the bus stop. Upon arriving and spotting the bus driver, Eliza ran off.
Running is dangerous.
Charles and I hurried after her. Reaching the bus driver quickly, Eliza pulled out her wallet from her backpack and offered the money to the bus driver. I have $1.50. Please take me to where Mommy is in the sky.
That's...
Faced with Eliza's earnest gaze, the confused bus driver looked at us.
Eliza, come here.
I hugged Eliza and explained that it takes more than a bus ride to go where Mommy is, that Mommy is in the sky because of something I said too casually.
We can go. We can go anywhere. I want to go see Mommy.
Eliza cried, arguing that since the bus on TV could fly, taking the bus meant she could go see Mommy in the sky. Believing my words, Eliza had been desperately figuring out a way to see Helen. I thought I was being supportive, but I hadn't understood Eliza's feelings at all. Learning of Eliza's thoughts made my heart feel like it was about to burst. All I could do was hug Eliza and wait for her to calm down. Ready to go? About 5 minutes had passed when a voice came from behind. Huh? Both Eliza and I involuntarily looked up. There stood Charles, with a stern face. Let's go.
Charles, wait, where to?
Without answering my question, Charles, still with a stern expression, firmly grabbed Eliza's arm. Ignoring Eliza's surprise and ensuing tears, Charles dragged her to a bus that was stopped nearby. We're leaving. I hurriedly followed the two of them onto the bus. Soon after, the bus started moving, and we took our seats. Eliza didn't understand what was happening, but her tears had stopped. In the empty bus, we sat in silence. Charles, where are we going? Having regained a bit of composure, I asked Charles about our destination. You'll see soon. Charles said only that, shifting his gaze outside the window. I turned to Eliza. Eliza, want a candy? Eliza nodded. There's the sea over there. The tunnel's long. To break the awkward silence, I made an effort to sound cheerful. After about 30 minutes. We're getting off at the next stop. Charles said this and began walking as soon as the automatic door opened. Holding Eliza's hand so we wouldn't fall behind, I followed him. Charles left the bus stop and got into a taxi that was waiting. Holding Eliza's hand, which looked anxious, we also entered the taxi. Charles must have told the driver the destination before we boarded, because the taxi started moving as soon as we got in.
Going out with Grandpa and Grandma is nice, isn't it?
The driver spoke to Eliza through the rearview mirror. Eliza didn't reply with much enthusiasm, but the driver continued. There's a place nearby that sells delicious cookies. You should ask them to buy you some.
Okay.
Hearing about cookies, Eliza's expression lightened slightly, and the driver smiled kindly at her. After about 15 minutes, the taxi stopped in front of a cemetery. I know this place.
That's great. You remember coming here before?
Yes, we had been here once before. But since we had come by car last time, I didn't realize where Charles was taking us until partway through. Without waiting for us, Charles walked through the cemetery and stopped in front of a grave, beckoning Eliza. Knowing it was a familiar place made Eliza a bit more at ease, and she ran to Charles. Sorry we couldn't explain properly last time we were here. Your mom is sleeping here, Eliza. Charles squatted down to meet Eliza's gaze and spoke slowly. The truth we had been vague about to Eliza. That Helen had died in a traffic accident and that we can never meet people who have passed away again was explained by Charles to Eliza. Eliza, trying to hold back her tears, listened intently to Charles. Even though we can't see Mommy, she's always near you, cheering you on, Eliza. As I fought back tears, I put on my bravest smile for Eliza. Mommy said she's happiest when she sees Eliza and Daddy smiling. Come on, tell Mommy something fun. I admired Charles for his deep understanding of Helen. Mommy. I've always wanted to see you. I've been so lonely. Eliza, seemingly unable to think of a cheerful story on the spot, began to express her feelings little by little. I did a lot of chores because I wanted to see Mommy. She talked about working hard on chores to earn bus fare to see Mommy, learning how to wash dishes, and experiencing her first bus ride through a long tunnel. As she spoke, Eliza's expression gradually became brighter. Ah, there's a cookie shop nearby that Mommy liked. Eliza remembered what the taxi driver had mentioned earlier. Then, let's buy some on the way back and eat them together. Is Mommy coming home with us? Mommy is always near Eliza. You just can't see her. But she's there, so let's talk a lot at home, okay?
Yeah.
Seeing Eliza's spirits lifted, Charles and I felt relieved. That evening, Eliza was in front of the portrait. The cookies were delicious. Have some, Mommy. Good night. Eliza, who rarely talks in her sleep, said something that night. Mommy, let's race to the other side. It seemed like she was playing with Helen in her dreams.
Charles, thank you.
I was grateful to Charles for having the courage to explain the truth to Eliza. Now it's Sean's turn. I had no confidence in cheering up Sean. A week passed. I had fallen asleep while putting Eliza to bed and woke up around 11 p.m. Oh no, I still haven't washed the dishes. Walking down the hallway to the kitchen, I heard a voice from the living room. Have a drink with me. Peeking inside, I saw Sean had just returned, holding a bag in one hand.
I'm too tired.
Sit down. Charles firmly made Sean sit and poured him a glass of whiskey. We went with Eliza to Helen's grave the other day. Charles told Sean about how Eliza had saved up money from doing chores to take the bus to see Mommy, how she cried at the bus stop wanting to see Mommy, and how they had explained the truth to Eliza, who understood. Eliza has managed to sort out her feelings and is now living looking forward. It's about time you did too. Sean interrupted Charles by placing his glass down.
It's not that easy to just switch feelings.
Sean tearfully argued that he still couldn't accept Helen's death and had been intentionally immersing himself in work to avoid thinking about her.
I'm not a child. I can't just accept it like Eliza. You can't possibly understand how I feel.
Charles glared at Sean, who was screaming irrationally, losing his composure. It's not because she's a child that she accepted it quickly. Eliza struggled for a long time before she could accept it. On top of losing Helen, her father, you, weren't around either. The one Eliza wanted to rely on the most was her father, you. Indeed, Eliza, though she never verbalized it, always cared about Sean. No matter how much we were there for her, the sudden separation from the family she had lived with must have been incredibly unsettling. Hearing Charles's words, Sean calmed down a bit.
We're at an age where anything can happen. When that time comes, who will protect Eliza? Only her father, you.
Sean looked down, tears streaming. Pour all your love into Eliza, for Helen's sake. We're a family, so we should spend time together and get through this together. Before long, tears were also streaming down Charles's face. Charles's words must have struck a chord with Sean. Making sure not to be seen by the two men, I quietly returned to the bedroom. The next morning, all the dishes in the sink were washed, and 2 glasses were set out to dry. Thanks for washing up. Did you have a drink with Sean? Yeah. What did you talk about? I don't remember, was too drunk. Charles, opening his newspaper wider to avoid the question, showed he could keep the confidentiality of a man-to-man conversation. This was another aspect of Charles that I appreciated anew. After that, Sean began to eat breakfast at home.
Good morning, Daddy.
Eliza, overjoyed to see her dad in the morning, was lovingly patted on the head by Sean. Eliza, want to go to the childcare center together?
Let's go.
Knowing her dad was by her side, Eliza, who had been skipping childcare, started going again. I'll do my best at childcare, so Daddy, you do your best at work too. When you come back, let's talk with Mommy, the three of us.
Okay.
Eliza's cheerfulness was a salvation for Sean, who was becoming more positive. As promised, when Sean could come home early, he and Eliza would talk about their day in front of Helen's portrait. Eliza was such a cheerful child. No matter how hard we, as grandparents, tried, we couldn't match the impact of a father. Thanks to Sean, Eliza was able to regain her true self. Finally accepting his role as a single parent, Sean started looking for a new job to cherish his time with Eliza. He sought a company that allowed remote work and was friendly to parenting generations. Don't overdo it. Rely on us. Just by staying cheerful, you keep Eliza cheerful too.
Thank you.
Seeing Sean, who had fully embraced his role as a father, I felt a sense of reliability. A year into his job search, Sean finally landed a position at his desired company. Thanks to this, he could now attend school events held on weekdays and spend Sundays enjoying activities or visiting places Eliza wanted to go. What do you guys talk about when you drink together? On Sundays, after Eliza had gone to bed, Charles and Sean would invariably start drinking. Curious about their conversations, I asked, but apparently they didn't talk about anything specific. Well, that's understandable when Charles is involved. Charles, who silently and kindly watches over everything. Surely, his kindness must be felt by Sean as well. Perhaps for a father and son who understand each other, words are unnecessary. I found their relationship somewhat enviable. Eliza, what happened to this shoe? One day, I noticed an unfamiliar, cute pair of shoes at the entrance.
Grandpa bought them for me. They're my favorite sky blue.
Charles, sitting on the sofa, blatantly avoided my gaze. It's fine to buy them, but why did Charles look away from me?
These pencil cases, notebooks, socks, and hats were also bought by Grandpa. So many?
Indeed, last Saturday, when I was at the optometrist, they had mentioned going out together. Probably, Charles couldn't resist his adorable granddaughter's requests. Imagining the scene, I couldn't help but laugh.
What's so funny? Nothing. Grandpa is just so kind.
Eliza smiled and nodded.
Grandpa told me to be like Mommy, so I have to try my best.
Like Helen? According to Eliza, Charles had told her to admire Helen for her thoughtfulness, her ability to treat everyone equally, and most importantly, her conviction that her family's happiness was her own. The towel Mommy gave me, Grandpa still keeps it safe. He said it's his treasure. I was surprised that Charles had so clearly expressed his feelings to Eliza. Charles, who empathizes with others and tailors his approach to suit them. Whether it's silently drinking with Sean or explicitly communicating with Eliza, both aspects are charming facets of Charles. Now, over 30 years into our marriage, discovering new aspects of Charles's charm, I've fallen for him all over again.
Come on, hurry up. Daddy, don't forget to buy the cookies.
Today is December 7th, Helen's monthly anniversary. We've made it a tradition to visit Helen's grave as a family of 4 on this day. This time, at Eliza's request, we took the bus together. Eliza, braving the cold to clean the grave.
Thank you.
Did I look like Mommy?
You did look like Mommy.
Eliza, praised by Charles, was visibly delighted. Sean watched Eliza with a smile. Our family can smile like this. So Helen, please be at ease. Please continue to watch over us 4. Opening my eyes, it felt as if Helen was also enveloped in this warm atmosphere with us.